Today's study is from ST 4.18, Volume 4, Chapter 18. Uposatha Sutta. This notice in brackets you have tat and then aha. Tat means that, tongue, that, or sometimes it can mean this also. Then aha means day, that day. So this is here. Tat becomes a stress word, that day. That means it's an important day, or this very day, today. Tadahu. Tadahu has like a sense of today. Okay. Uposatha. Today is the Uposatha day, kind of meaning. Sutta, discourse on the day of the observance. Or you can, because the suttas name is Uposatha, and there are many suttas by that name. So in order to differentiate this sutta, we can add in a prefix. For example, we can individualize this sutta by noting that it is from the Book of Threes in the Anguttara Nikaya. A3.70, the 3 means Book of Threes, that's Sutta 7T. So you can see third line, Tika, Tika Uposatha Sutta. Tika means the Book of Threes. Okay, so Tika Uposatha Sutta. So you either remember the name or remember the number, A3.70, then it's easier to find out where the original text is located. By the way, this number A370 is standard. You know, it is found in all the manuscripts of Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, Khmer, and so on. Sometimes the numbering may differ, especially with the Burmese edition, Sri Lanka edition, Samese edition, and the PTS Pali Text Society edition. If the numbers differ, normally I will put it in. Normally, the different numbering will be with the Burmese edition, the so-called Sixth Council edition. So in this case, A3.70 is quite standard. You know? So this sutta is about the various kinds of Uposatha day practices, how to keep the full moon, new moon day practice, so to speak. How to live like a monk for a day. So this sutta is reasonably long and important. So I'm not going to rush it. We'll probably take 2 lessons. First part, we'll talk about the various kinds of Uposatha or observance. And then the second part is on the 8 precepts. I don't think I've talked about 8 precepts before, so we will focus on the 8 precepts and see what we can learn from the second part. Yeah? All right, so let's look at the sutta itself, the translation, page 205. Okay, here we are. Uposatha. So you join up the words, okay? Uposatha Sutta, this day of the observance discourse. A3.70. Thus have I heard. At one time, the Blessed One was staying in the mansion of Nigara's mother in the eastern monastery near Savatthi. Okay. So this is built by Migara's mother, who of course is Visakha, but it's the lady who is at the center of this sutta. So it's a double-story mansion, and it's a huge mansion. So there are like, I don't know, I think 500 kutis, you know, upstairs, or is it downstairs? And the Buddha is upstairs. So the monks can meditate anywhere in the open space. So here, it's next line says, now at that time, it being the observance state. So there you can see the underlined phrase, it being the observance state. That is Uposatha. Right? Visakha Migara Mata is the lady Visakha. Migara Mata means Migara's mother. Because Visakha is a very common name. The word Vesak is also same, no? It's Visakha. So this is Migara's mother. Now, I think this interesting thing is this Megara is not the son. This Megara actually is the father-in-law, you know. So because he kind of taught a Dharma lesson to the father-in-law. Father-in-law was very happy and kind of showed deep respect for her and said, "You're like a mother to me." So that's why she's called Megara's mother, right? So this Visakha went up to the Blessed One. Having gone up to the Blessed One, she saluted him and sat down at one side. As she sat down at one side, the Blessed One said this to Visakha Megaramata. Now, Visakha, why are you here so early at dawn? Now, the fact that Buddha asked this question means it's probably quite early in the Buddha's ministry, and it's not yet the custom for lay people to gather together in a monastery to, you know, keep the precepts there. So it's also possible after this, you know, as people begin to understand keeping the precepts of Uposatha Day, it became more popular. So here the Buddha is asking, why have you come here? Then she replies, today, Bhante, I'm keeping the observance, right? Now, so in other words, this observance, Uposatha, is a day which is quite well known to the people in India in those days, well known, even practiced by the other religions. So this observance day are the full moon, new moon days especially, and also the first day, 23rd day of the lunar calendar. Full moon, new moon days are special. Full moon, of course, is very bright, and they don't have a calendar like ours today, so they follow the cycle of the moon. And these are the days they keep. More or less, each holiday is like 7 or 8 days apart. And so this is a day for them to take a rest, go to the monastery, listen to lessons, maybe do some meditation and so on. So this is the observance day, the Uposatha day. You know? And the Chinese calendar also follows this more or less the same numbering, but the dates do not always coincide with the Indian calendar. They may be a day apart and so on. But it doesn't matter if you're keeping the precepts on such the full moon, new moon days, as long as you choose one day according to what you're used to, and that's your practice, right? So here, this sutta, there are two main parts. In the first part, the Buddha talks about 3 kinds of observances, and then the details there, quite a lot of details. And then in the second part, the Buddha talks about the most common of the Uposatha, that is the 8 precepts, which we even today practice, right? So that's the more detailed one in the second part. So we're looking a bit like on the history of the Uposatha days. Let's look at the 3 kinds of observance. 1.2, Visakha. There are these 3 kinds of observance. What are the 3? The cowherds observant. Gopalaku Uposatha. Okay, Gopalaka is the, we say jaga lembu, nah? Go means cattle, palaka, pala or palaka means like a kind of caretaker. In fact, even the word jaga, it is Pali, you know, it means to keep awake. You know? And Uposatha, all right? Number 2, the Negrantes Observance, the naked Jain observance, Nigantu Uposatha. Number 3, the noble ones Uposatha, observance, the Aryas observance. This is the way the saints keep the observance day, Aryo Uposatha. And so this is like a syllabus, and then the Buddha explains 1, 2, 3 in some detail what these 3 are like. So now we go to section 2, paragraph 2 rather. Notice the brackets 1 that refers to the, when you see this bracket, it refers to the internal numbering of the various, the syllabus, okay? So the first one is on the cowherds observance. And what Visakha is the cowherds observance. Suppose, Visakha, a cowherd, having returned the cows to the owners in the evening, reflects thus: today the cows graze at such and such a place and drank at such and such a place. Tomorrow they will graze at such and such a place and drink at such and such a place. So this cattle herder has finished his job, right? So we know from this kind of description that the owners normally employ a cowherd to look after the cows. So after he's finished his job, so he just sits down, and then he kind of, this memory comes back, say, oh, today the cow went here, went there. So this is what he does. He's resting and he's remembering all this, his day's work. And then he says, well, tomorrow, okay, I'll bring these cows over there. Usually what happens is these cows, they're used to routine. So once they need to be led the first time, and once they like the grass there, or they've been used to that kind of route, and that's called a gochara. They always follow the same route. So this word gochara, the path of the cow, is also used by the Buddha for monks. So gochara has the secondary meaning. It means a suitable place, a safe place. The cows will always keep to this safe place. They walk along the safe path. So gochara also means the safe place to go at the right time also. For example, go for alms, right? And agochara, not gochara, are places like entertainment places, the marketplace, things like that. So those are agochara. So that's the cow's path. No? Right, so the Buddha explained, okay, this cowherd, having finished his job, sitting back, relaxing, and he's thinking about what happened the daytime and then what he's going to do the next day. 2.2. So in the same way, Visakha, a certain observance or observant or observance keeper, someone who keeps the observance day, here reflects, today I ate such and such hard food, took such and such soft food. Tomorrow I shall eat such and such hard food, or should take such and such soft food. Hard food means food that you chew, soft food is like soup and so on. And he lets the day pass and his mind occupied by covetousness. This, Visakha, is the cowherd's observance. So this is a very worldly practice. You just sit back, relax, and not really observing the precepts. You're just thinking about what you enjoy and what you like to do. Well, some people do this, so this is not the helpful observance. It's just called the cowherd's observance. Very worldly, very repetitive. Moreover, this cowherd doesn't even own the cows, so he has to work hard and earn a bit of money and so on. And that's about it. That's all he does. So it's not very helpful practice. Thus observe, Visakha, the cowherd's observance is not of great fruit, not of great benefit, not of great radiance, not of great pervasiveness. In other words, it doesn't bring us joy, doesn't create good karma for us. Okay, so that's the first kind of Uposatha. Now the second kind of Uposatha, this section 3. And what, Visakha, is the Negrantes Observance. There is, Visakha, a class of Negranta or naked Jain ascetics who exhort their disciples thus. Okay, now let me just say a bit about this Jain. See, the Jains, there are two kinds, even in the Buddhist time. So we have those who are, they're very strict about renunciation. They take it literally. So much so they say they even renounce their clothes, and they don't wash themselves. They keep their hair long, so they're not very nice to look at, by the way. So there are those who wear a piece of cloth around the loins. So that's called the Sky-Clad Chains. And there are those who are totally naked, who don't wear anything. And so this is the other group, even more strict. They claim not to have anything at all right? Of course, they're very careful to be, they don't stay with the people, they will stay in remote areas on their own. And then even when the devotees do meet them, they will sit in such a way so that they are presentable to look at. So it's not an easy way of life. And of course, the Buddha doesn't encourage this. It's a very strange way of practicing renunciation, too literal, if you like. Yeah? Anyway, so you have this naked ascetic who's keeping his observance day. So obviously, from this kind of report, we know that these observances have been observed even by the Jains, and the Jain religion is older than the Buddha's teaching, so they have been practicing this. So here the Buddha explains what they did. So the Jain said, "Come, my good man, lay aside the stick," in other words, be non-violent, "to all living beings that exist in the east for 100 fathoms." Right, so this is a ritual. It's okay. Now for 1 fathom is about 7 miles. No? So no, a fathom, sorry, a fathom is the height, is your height. Yojana is 7 miles. So this fathom is about your height, so 700. 100 kind of body length. Let me not hurt anyone in that direction. Lay aside the stick to all living beings that exist in the west for 100 fathoms. Lay aside the stick to all living beings that exist in the north for 100 fathoms. Let aside the stick to all living beings that exist in the south for 100 fathoms. Of course, I suppose if you ask this Jain teacher, they will say, "Oh, these are all symbolic words. It means you send out your loving kindness in all the 4 directions. You don't want to hurt any of them." Of course, we can't be doing that because we're not going in that direction anyway. So this is just the way they practice their loving kindness. Okay. So first they start by doing this. Thus, Vishaka, they show compassion and kindness towards certain living beings. They do not show compassion and kindness to certain living beings. So the Buddha says that the way this kind of reflection is worded is rather strange. They just limit that area instead of, whereas in the Buddhist practice, it's all the beings in the front directions, right to the end of the universe. So this idea of boundlessness is important. Okay, so you don't see this in the case of the Jain ascetics. At least this is as the Buddha tells us. Then 3.2. Then again, Vishaka, on the day of observance, they exhort their disciples thus. So they say, "Now, my good man, take off all your clothes and say thus." Okay, this is really kind of a special Jain practice. They actually practice enunciation by even giving up their clothes on that day. Of course, I don't think many people dare to do this nowadays, but this is done with these naked ascetics in a remote area of the countryside. So the idea here is to practice non-self or selflessness. So this naked ascetic tells his follower, okay, take out all your clothes and then reflect. I am not anywhere in anything. There is, number 2, there's nothing of me in anything anywhere. There is nothing whatever anywhere that is mine. There is nothing in anything. Okay. So the idea here is that I'm not connected with anything in this world right now. I don't own anything. Nobody owns me. I don't own even brother, sister, and so on. I'm letting go of all of them. Okay, that's the reflection. All right. Sounds very, very good, but what Buddha says is purely ritualistic. Sounds very nice in words, but there are some problems with the wording. Okay, so then the Buddha continues and says, but still the parents know their son thus. This is our son. And he knows them thus. These are our mother and father. But still the wife and children know. They are breadwinner. This is our breadwinner. Those who support them and raise them. And he knows them thus. These are our children. These are our wife and children. But still his slaves, laborers, and workers know him thus. This is our master. And he knows them thus. These are my slaves, laborers, and workers. So the Buddha's criticism here is mainly, it says, oh, these are very nice words, but if you examine the words carefully, the meaning is a bit problematic, no? Because you say this, but all these people still look up to you, and you still own them anyway. And then the Buddha, now next part is you can see the Buddha's humor. There is this very sharp observance, very sharp-eyed observance, and it's very funny. 3.3. Thus, at a time when they should be exhorted to undertake the truth, they are exhorted to undertake false speech. This is speaking falsehood on their part, I say. Then, when the night has passed, he resumes the use of his belongings that actually have not been given to him. That is taking the not given on their part, I say. Okay, this is the funny part. Okay, very subtle humor, right? This Visakha is the Negrantes Observance. Now, what's the meaning here? So the Buddha says, okay, this Negrantes, this naked ascetic and his followers, they say, okay, I'm giving up all this. I'm giving up my clothes. I'm giving up my property. I'm giving up my families and all my relationships. I own nothing. I am nothing now. Okay, very nice, very wonderful way of saying it. But the reality is, whatever they say, the situation is still the same. So it's not really reflecting the truth. Very odd, you know. It's a kind of false speech. But it becomes very clear when they say, okay, I don't own these clothes anymore. No more mine. They let it go. But then the Buddha says, at the end of the ceremony, at the end of the day, at the end of the observance, they have to dress again. So they take back those same clothes. But the point is, they already given those clothes up. It's no more theirs, you see. But now they take it back. So the Buddha said, when they take it like that, it's not given to them. So they're taking something which is not theirs. Isn't that odd? The Buddha says, isn't that taking the not given? So you can see the subtle humor, that very sharp kind of observance. The Buddha said, this is very ritualistic without the proper significance, in other words. All right, so these are the two kinds of observances which the Buddha advises not to practice. It's not very helpful, right? Next line says, this Negrantes Observance Visakha is not great in benefit, not great in radiance, not great in pervasiveness. In other words, it doesn't, it's not really complete. You don't really show your loving kindness broadly enough in what's called, what we call unlimited way, all right? Now comes the main part, okay? This is the third group of observances. This is the biggest one, the noble one's observance. The observance that they are kept by the saints of the path, by the srimana, and so on up to the arahats, if you like. Okay. Of course, in the case of the arahats, you can say every moment, every day is observance day for them because they already awakened. They live a life of keeping the precepts. They naturally would not break the precepts. So they don't have to recite the 8 precepts, or they already have their own monks' precepts. So their observance is the noble observance. It is different from the way the layman would keep the Uposatha because they are awakened saints. The srimana, probably being a layman, and maybe they're married, so they will recite the 8 precepts for that day. So these are the adjustments that need to be made when we talk about the observance of the noble ones, depending on whether they are lay people or they are monastics, and depending on whether they are streaminers once returner, non-returners, or whether they are arahats. Okay, or we may classify streamliners, non-returners one group, streamliners and once returner one group, and then non-returners and arahats one group, if you like. So here the Buddha explained this, the Noble One's observance. Here there are, I think, 5 kinds of observances, right? So we can practice any of these. Okay, I will tell you again how this is practiced in a simple way after I've explained to you some of these points here. So the first one, there's number 3 here. Here I put number 3 because 1 and 2 I already mentioned to you. The first is the cowherd's observance. The second one is the naked Jain ascetics observance. So this third one is the starting recollection of the Buddha. No? Of course, you can, if you want to renumber, these are the Buddhist one. You can start numbering 1 again if you like, and then the numbering ends with number 8. All right, which is on page 214, right? So these are the whole list of the observance for the Noble Ones. So there is, first of all, the recollection of the Buddha. And the Buddha calls this the perfect observance, Brahmu Uposatha. You can translate this as Brahma's Uposatha if you like, but here's an adjective. So it's not really Brahma in the sense of Brahma, the deity. Here it is, for example, you have the word Brahma Chakra, right? The perfect wheel of Dhamma. So here Brahma refers to, is an adjective meaning the perfect Uposatha, or the perfect practice, or the practice of the perfect one, if you like. Let's look at the meaning a little deeper here. 4.2. Now, so what is this Noble One's observance? It is Visakha by the cleansing of a soiled mind by purposeful effort. Okay, this line appears in all the other kind of observances which the Buddhist observes. The purpose is to clear the mind. So we keep the Uposatha day to clear the mind, to purify the mind. And this is done in various ways. You can choose whichever one you like, all right? So next line, how Visakha is a soiled mind cleansed by purposeful effort. Here Visakha, the noble disciple, recollects the Tathagata thus. All right, so this is the first practice. Let's say on a full moon, new moon day, you are busy, you're working, or for some reason you're not able to keep the observance, the precepts. Then you practice recollection of the Buddha. Here he recollects the Tathagata. Thus, the Blessed One is such, itipiso, okay? Arahant, an Arahat, worthy, fully self-awakened, accomplished in wisdom and conduct, welfare, knower of worlds, fearless guide of persons to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, awakened, blessed. Of course, this is just a kind of explanation. You reflect on the Buddha's qualities and virtues. You can picture him. You can say, well, okay, the Buddha is Arahant. How is he Arahant? He has overcome all his defilements and so on. Right? So you reflect. So you have to know the suttas well to understand these various aspects, these 9 qualities of the Buddha, if you like. Or for some people, they can picture a very beautiful picture. Now, there's a problem here about Buddha pictures. All those pictures you see today, that's not how the Buddha looks like. Those are pictures influenced by Greek art, if you like. The Buddha wearing all those nice flowing robes and with a big kind of palm on the top of the head. The Buddha looks just like any other monk. In fact, there are many occasions when the people could not recognize who is the Buddha among these monks. And they have to ask, or the Buddha will introduce himself, or another monk like Mahakashapa will introduce the Buddha. So in fact, because of this problem, you have a few Thai artists in recent times try to paint a new style of the Buddha, try to show him how he would look like realistically, without the bump on the head and without all those curly hair. Because the Greeks, for some reason, couldn't accept that the Buddha was bald, and so they give him hair and so on. The Buddha was bald just like any other monk, so he also shaved his hair just like any other monk. So they draw him in a very beautiful way, looking just like a monk. So you do have that kind of style nowadays. Anyway, so here we reflect, we choose all these pictures which is realistic, which would look like him. You picture him in meditation, teaching. So this is your own kind of vision to help you stay calm. These are just skillful means, all right? So you reflect either on the 9 qualities. You can take one quality, or a few qualities, or all the 9, or you can picture him as a person, right? 4.3. When he does recollect the Tathagata, his mind brightens up with faith. He is calm and clear in faith. Is the alternate translation. Joy arises. He gives up his soiled mind. Okay, this line is very important psychologically. How do we purify the mind? By arousing joy, by feeling joyful. When you feel joyful, you let go of all the negative states. And how does the mind become joyful? In this case, by recollecting the Buddha. So some people, they are faith inclined, so you picture the Buddha. Even sometimes you just say the word Buddha, you feel happy, right? So this is how it works. So the Buddha here says, Vishaka, just as a soiled head, in other words, a person with the hair unwashed, dirty hair, is cleansed by purposeful effort. So now the Buddha explained how is hair washed? How does the people in the Buddha's times wash their hair? They don't use hair shampoo like we do today, so they have their own way of washing. Right? So this is very interesting because here you have the social history. You begin to see how the ancient Indians washed their hair. 4.4. And how Vishaka is a soiled head cleansed by purposeful effort, by means of cleansing paste, by means of clay. Okay, so this clay, of course, is a fine clay for washing the hair, by means of water, and by means of purposeful effort. So from this you can know, right? You have some idea how the ancient Indians wash their hair. So they put all these things together and then they rub it and this will clean their hair. And very often you see their very nice, beautiful hair. This Vishaka is how a soiled head is cleansed by purposeful effort. In the same way, Vishaka is his soiled mind, is the practitioner, the observance, soiled mind cleansed by his purposeful effort. How Vishaka is his soiled mind cleansed by purposeful effort? Here Vishaka, the noble disciple, recollects the Tathagata thus. So this passage repeated. This person reflects on Itipiso Bhagava, on the 9 virtues of the Buddha. 4.6. When he does reflect the Tathagata, his mind brightens up with faith, joy arises. And because of joy arises, he gives up his soiled mind. Okay, so there's a bit more, no? The perfect observance, 4.7. This noble disciple Vishaka is said to keep the perfect observance or Brahma's observance. That's one way of translating it, Brahmuposatha, to dwell with Brahma, the Buddha. Okay, these 2 lines is a very special teaching the Buddha gave, because there were those days people who still believe in Brahma, believe in this great God up there. So this is the Buddha's way of reaching out to the God believers. So he doesn't force them straight away to say, stop believing in this, stop believing in that. So basically the Buddha is saying, okay, let's start with what you believe, but look at this belief in this way. If you believe in this God idea, so this applies even today, people who are still stuck to their God idea. So we tell them, okay, see your God as practicing precepts. Okay, you picture this goodness of this God, and you also practice in the same way. So this is the Brahma by way of keeping the precepts. So this is Brahma as God, okay, capital big G God. Huh? Then the second meaning, next line, it is in reference with the perfect one, Brahma, the Buddha. So here the Buddha, there's a little twist here. Brahma refers to the Buddha, the highest of the true gods, if you like, okay? So the Buddha is the perfect one, Brahma as an adjective, because he has awakened, no more defilements. So in that sense, he's Brahma. So the Buddha is he's not a person by way of a God, but he is this state of perfection, this state of awakening, of no more defilements, no more suffering, if you like, the perfect one. So that his mind brightens with faith, right? So we reflect in this way and say, wow, the Buddha is this Brahma, you know, by his own actions. And so joy arises in you. And in that way, you give up the soil mind. Even so, Vishaka, a soil mind is cleansed with purposeful effort. So in this section on the first kind of Buddhist Uposatha, the noble ones Uposatha, you see the Buddha reaching out to those who are God believers. Say, okay, if you believe in God, keep the precepts in this way, right? That this Brahma, this perfection means keeping yourself pure. Practice in this way, right? Don't send out your refuge looking for something outside. Take the refuge back inside. Be responsible for your action. Practice the precepts yourself. Don't depend on God from something outside for salvation and so on. Right? So this is the meaning of the Brahma Uposatha, the perfect Uposatha, or the observance of the perfect one. In this case, the Buddha. And in other words, you practice self-reliance through keeping the precepts. So you can see how profound just one simple teaching, this first one, is like. All right. Okay, so now that brings us to 9 o'clock, and we have our short break before we continue.
Okay, thank you, Brother Piya. We'll have a 5 minutes break. Brother Piya, we can start now.
Yeah, sure. Okay, now we go on to section 5. This is the second of the noble observance, Uposatha. And this is the recollection of the Dharma, or also called Dhammuposatha, section 5. There is, Vishaka, the cleansing of a soil mind by purposeful effort. So here the Buddha is reminding us again, we are keeping the observance, the Uposatha day, for purifying the mind. How, Vishaka, is a soil mind cleansed by purposeful effort? Here, Vishaka, the noble disciple, recollects the Dharma thus. Well taught is the Blessed One's true teaching. Right? Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo. Visible here and now, immediate, in other words, having nothing to do with time, inviting one to come and see. Accessible, or meaning to bring oneself up to it, you can approach this teaching yourself. To be personally known by the wise. So the trees of wisdom. When he thus recollects the Dhamma, his mind brightens up with faith. Joy arises. He gives up his soil mind. Vishaka, just as a soil body is cleansed by purposeful effort. Okay, so here we can, if we are busy on the precept day, full moon, new moon day, or first 8th day, 23rd day, we can practice reflection on the Buddha's teaching. We can choose these virtues of the sangha, as a virtue of the Dharma rather, and reflect on any one of these or on all of them. All right. So again, we have to know the suttas, right? Of course, you can also reflect on what you have learned from the sutta. You can reflect, say, oh, this is wonderful. I know the sutta, this teaching is wonderful. So you reflect for the purpose of arousing faith. When faith arises, joy follows. When there is joy, the mind clears itself from unwholesome and negative states. So here, once again, let me remind, we got to remind ourselves, this idea of joy is very important as a Buddhist. No? Whatever it is, have that inner smile, think happy thoughts. When you look at other people, try to think something happy about them, even though the situation may be difficult and it's not easy. If we can't do that at that time, then we do it in retrospect. In other words, on the Uposatha day, on the full moon, new moon day, we reflect, say, okay, I've been impatient, or I didn't show enough joy here, so let me remind myself I have to build up this joy towards others. So remember, people come to the Dharma, people get inspired to learn the Dharma because they see you happy. It's not so much what you know, because you notice sometimes people, they know a lot, but then there is always a distance from others, and you're not making us happy. So it's very important. They not only give us wisdom, but they also make us happy in a wise way. And you make yourself happy in a wise way by understanding the Buddha's teaching, reflecting on it. So this is the second kind of Uposatha, reflecting on the Buddha's teaching, the Dharma. 5.3, and how Vishaka is a soil body cleansed by purposeful effort, by means of a back scrubber, right? So it's some kind of like a kind of foam or something, or this dried husk of some what they call plant. Then they rub themselves, no? The back, by means of chunam, or kind of lime soap. These are very ancient kind of soap, no? Chunam soap or lime soap, by means of personal effort, purposeful effort. That Vishaka is how the soil body is cleansed by purposeful effort. In the same way, Vishaka is his soil mind cleansed by purposeful effort. How Vishaka is his soil mind cleansed by purposeful effort? Here Vishaka, the noble disciple, recollects the Dharma, Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo, and so on, the various virtues of the Dhamma. So when 5.5, when he recollects the Dhamma, the mind brightens with faith, joy arises. He gives up his soil mind. Right? So when you do metta, when you do loving kindness, you get this similar effect. And it's very important to do metta. So especially when, say, we're dealing with old people, sick people, our being happy, positive, we start being positive first. And when we go to see this old person, the sick person, we try to feel this joy and try to make this other person feel happy, joyful. That's a really good way of treating the old or treating the sick. Okay, so this is an example here. Here it is called the Dharma of Servants. 5.6. This noble disciple Vishaka is said to keep the Dharma of Servants, Uposatha, to dwell with Dharma, living with the Dharma. It is in reference to the Dharma, the teaching and the truth, that this mind brightens up with faith, that joy arises. It gives up his soil mind. Even so, Visakha, the soil mind is cleansed by purposeful effort. Right, so this is the second method. Now, number brackets 5 is the third method, recollection of the sangha. So notice that you have the three jewels, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. This is called the Sangha of Servants, Uposatha. All right. So notice here when we when we say Uposatha, we are referring to reflecting on the qualities of the Sangha. That is reflecting on the noble Sangha of streamliness and so on. Section 6. There is Visakha, the cleansing of a soil mind by purposeful efforts. How Visakha is a soil mind cleansed by purposeful effort? Here Visakha, the noble disciple, recollects the Sangha, the community of noble ones. Thus, so remember, this Sangha is the 4 kinds of saints. So it can be monastic, it can be lay people also, those who are saints, streamliners, once returner, non-returner, arahats. Right, so how is this 6, line 2, how is Visakha is a soul mind cleansed by purposeful effort? It recollects the Sangha. Thus, Swakat Supatipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho. Right? The Blessed One's community of disciples keeps to the good way. Supatipanno. Supatipanno can also be translated as well practiced. Su is well, Patipanno, well practiced. Okay. I've translated Su here as meaning good, a good way, meaning the Eightfold Path, meaning the precepts. Okay. The Blessed One's community of disciples keep to the straight way, Ujupatipanno, right? So here, straight way refers to the person meditates and the mind goes straight to the object, all right? It also can mean Uju in the sense of he keeps the precept properly, so he's upright in that sense, right? But it's good to see it as Sila, Samadhi, and Panya, if you like. So the third line, the Blessed One's community of disciples keeps to the right way, Nyaya Patipanno. So Nyaya, normally you see Nyaya refers to the Eightfold Path itself. So this saint or this person of the belonging to the noble Sangha follows the Eightfold Path in terms of practice, in terms of training, the 3 trainings, right? And then the fourth one, the Blessed One's community of disciples keeps to the proper way, all right? Samichi Patipanno. So he shows by his action, by his words, that he has realized the teaching, at least to some level, all right? So these are the 4 pairs of persons. 4 pairs meaning you have the streamliner to be, streamliner become, okay? So undergraduate, graduate, so the, and then the same thing with the once returner, non-returner, arahat. Arahat to be, arahat become. So these are called the 8 individuals, the 8 kinds of noble disciples. The Blessed One's community of disciples is worthy of offerings, right? So in other words, if you make gifts, they are the best people to receive because they don't own worldly things, only basic stuff for life support. They don't cook, so we offer them food, and they don't work, right? So this offering is very helpful for them to continue living and practicing and teaching us. Worthy of hospitality, taking care, serving them, right? So because you are serving someone noble, good, someone who is beneficial to us in terms of mind training. Worthy of gifts, this third line, worthy of gifts are dakineya, giving of donations to teachers. So they are our teachers, so it's worthy to give them suitable gifts, not money to the monks, but by way of support. Yeah. Worthy of salutation with the lotus palms. Okay, so this is to greet them. Lotus palms means peace, right? So we greet them in peace, because they are on the path. So we're putting our palms together to remind ourselves that we would like to be like a lotus, just like them. This lotus grows on the muddy waters into the bright sunshine, so we also will be like that to practice and free ourselves from ignorance and suffering. And finally, a supreme feel of merit for the world. So these saints of the path are really wonderful people. And in that sense, they allow us, whenever we do good with them, we create this merits, meaning support for our own practice, so that we too can practice and head towards the same path like them. 6.2. So when he thus reflects the sangha, his mind brightens up with faith, joy arises, he gives up his soiled mind. So the process is the same. You feel, you reflect, and then this faith arises, you feel joyful, and the joy pushes away the impure mind. Vishaka just says, a soiled piece of cloth is cleansed by purposeful effort. So the example here, the metaphor and analogy here is that of cleaning cloth. Okay, washing. How do people in the Buddha's time clean their cloth, wash the cloth? 6.3. And how Vishaka is a soiled cloth cleansed by purposeful effort, by means of cleansing salt, by means of lye. Okay, the next one is very interesting. By means of cow dung, by means of purposeful effort. Now the Indians, they regard cow dung as something special because it's just fermented grass, if you like. It's the remains of the grass that is eaten by the cow. Of course, to us, it smells very strong. But then when you dry it, the smell is gone. Okay, so anyway, so they use this to clean their cloth. Okay? Among other things, it's got cleansing salt, lye, cow dung. So you can use any of this. This is how Vishaka is how a soil, a dirty piece of cloth is cleansed by purposeful effort. In the same way, Vishaka is his soil mind cleansed by purposeful effort. 6.4. And how Vishaka is his soil mind cleansed by purposeful effort. Here, Vishaka, the noble disciple, recollects the sangha here. No? Sangha Supatipano Bhagavato Savaka Sangha and so on. So this is a repeat of the previous verse. Everything is the same here, because this is the oral tradition, all right? And so this is the Sangha of Servants. By reflecting on the qualities of the Sangha, you can reflect on the lives of the Arahats. You can also reflect on either the qualities or the lives of those great saints who inspire you. And you can reflect on them, on those in the life, and then you go into your meditation. That's another way. No? Now then, you have this conclusion to this particular reflection, 6.5. This noble disciple Vishaka is said to keep the Sangha of Servants, Uposatha, to dwell with the Sangha. It is in reference to the Sangha, community of noble ones, that his mind brightens up with faith, the joy arises, and he gives up his soil mind. Even so, Vishaka, a soil mind is cleansed by purposeful effort. Okay, now we've gone. So these are the three jewels. You can reflect on any of these three jewels in the Buddha, Dharma, or Sangha on the Uposatha day. If you are busy, you spend a quiet moment. Even if you're working in the office, you just take 5 minutes off during your break or some quiet time, right? So at least you remember, okay, today is the Uposatha day, and that's an amazingly meritorious way of acting, you know, as a Buddhist. So the fourth way that you can keep the Uposatha day is to practice to reflect on the precepts. Remember, I often remind you, when you come to join us today in this talk, we start off by reciting the precepts. So you're even right now, as you listen, you are keeping the 5 precepts. So you remember this period, 2 hours, you have kept the precepts, all the 5 precepts full and complete. You have not broken any of them. You have not killed, steal, sexual misconduct, lie, or taken any intoxicants. So you reflect in this way, you say, oh, and I've kept all the 5 precepts, and you feel happy and joyful. All right. So look at number 7. There is Vishaka, the cleansing of a soil mind by purposeful effort. How Vishaka is a soil mind cleansed by purposeful effort? Here Vishaka, the noble disciple, recollects his own moral virtue that is unbroken, untorn, unmixed, spotless, liberating, praised by the wise, untarnished, conducive to concentration, right? So you keep the precepts fully, right? And you recollect, you say, today I've done this. The precepts are complete. I didn't break it in any way, right? When he does recollect his own moral virtue, his mind brightens up with faith. Joy arises. He gives up his soil mind. Vishaka, just as a soil mirror is cleansed by purposeful effort. So notice here, the mirror is mentioned. Clean the mirror. Okay. And then the next section, the Buddha shows us how the ancient Indians clean a mirror. The parable of mirror cleaning, 7.2. And how Vishaka is a soil mirror cleansed by purposeful effort, by means of oil, by means of ashes, by means of a bristle brush, by means of purposeful effort. Notice this purposeful effort is always mentioned there. Ne? First you got the tools and then you must put in the effort. This Vishaka is how a soil mirror is cleansed by purposeful effort. In the same way, Vishaka is his soil mind cleansed by purposeful effort. And the next paragraph simply repeats how you recollect having kept the precepts yourself. All right. And then section 7.4 also is the same. It repeats. It just reminds us this is how we keep the observance of moral virtue, silu Uposatha, the observance of recollecting on how we have kept the precepts ourselves, and in doing so, our mind is filled with faith, joy arises, and in that way, our mind is purified. Okay. Now we come to the last part. That is the 5th way of keeping the precept of the noble ones, recollecting the Devas, the gods of servants, Deva Uposatha. Notice this very similar to the Devata Nusati, right? So here again, the Buddha is reaching out to those who believe in gods this time. There were all kinds of gods. So if you believe in all those gods, reflect on how they became gods. So this is what the section 8 is about. Look at section 8. There is Vishaka, the cleansing of a soil mind by purposeful effort. Here Vishaka, a soil mind is a soil. Here Vishaka is a soil mind cleansed by purposeful effort. Here Vishaka, the noble disciple recollects the Devas, or the gods. There are the Devas of the 4 great kings, Chatum Maharajika. There are the Devas of the 33, Tawatingsa. Okay, this one's led by Sakra. There are the Devas of Yama. There are the Devas who are contented, Tusita Devas. There are the Devas who delight in creating, Nimanarati Devas. There are the Devas who lord over others' creations, Paranimita Vasavati Devas. There are Devas of the Brahma host, Brahma Kayika Devas. So here the Brahmas are grouped together. And there are Devas beyond these. Okay. Now notice in this sutta here, the word Deva is a broad term, a generic term for all the heavenly beings. Technically, only the Devas of the lower world, sense world, they call Devas. From the form world onwards, they're called Brahmas. That's another way of putting it. Because the Brahmas are those gods who who attain jhanas. Okay, that's another way of putting it. But here the word devas is used for all the heavenly beings by reflecting on their sense of brightness. That's one way of putting it. Now, this is very interesting because this sutta, this part of the sutta explains how reflection on the devas is done. 5 ways. This is called the fivefold noble growth. You see that this fivefold noble growth is not mentioned in this sutta, but of course, if you know the sutta, you'll find this teaching is found elsewhere. And this is what we do in Sutta Discovery. We connect the teachings together. So I put the subheader for you, the fivefold noble growth, and the footnote, right? Cultivating the recollection of the Devas. The fivefold noble growth. 1, faith. 2, moral virtue. 3, learning. 4, charity. And 5, wisdom. All right. So, brackets 1, the faith that those devas are endowed with, because of which, when they pass away from this world, they're reborn there. That kind of faith is found in me too, right? So you say, okay, these devas, they arise in the heavenly world because they have faith in goodness, faith in the three jewels here. And right now, I have that faith too. So you feel happy that way, that you will be reborn in a happy state. So this is you recollect on the faith of the devas, which create good karma, which brings them rebirth in a happy state. 2, the moral virtue that those devas are endowed with, of which, when they pass away from this world, they are reborn there. That kind of moral virtue is found in me too. So I also keep the precepts, like they kept the precepts here. Number 3, learning. The learning, here meaning learning the Dharma, learning teachings, that those devas are endowed with, because of which, when they pass away from this world, they are reborn there. That kind of learning is found in me too, right? So like right now, you're learning the suttas. So when you learn the suttas, you learn to keep the precept, you learn to be happy, and this good karma brings you happy rebirth in the next life. Number 4, charity. That those devas are endowed with, because of which, when they pass away from this world, they are reborn there in the heavens. That kind of charity is found in me too. So I also practice generosity, giving, okay? A few of you supporting our Dharma work here, and because of that, all these things you see now are possible, right? So this is a recollection of charity. In fact, if you total up all these practices, these are also the 6 kinds of inspiring practices, of which charity is missing, right? But here you have charity is included here. So this is number 6 is here. Right? And then this, the last quality is wisdom, understanding of the teachings, understanding, for example, impermanence, suffering, right? Even non-self. That those devas are endowed with, because of which, when they pass away from this world, they are reborn there. That kind of wisdom is found in me too. So when he recollects his own faith, moral virtue, learning, charity, and wisdom, as well as those of the devas, his mind brightens up with faith, or your mind brightens up with faith. Joy arises, and you give up your soil mind. So Visakha, just as soil go is cleansed by purposeful effort. All right. So in this case, the example the Buddha uses go, soil go. And then the Buddha goes on to explain how this is done. Now we'll read this and then we'll end this part here and continue next lesson with the rest of the sutta on the 8 precepts. 8.4. And how Visakha is soil go purified, impure go purified by purposeful effort, by means of a furnace, this oven, very big oven, especially for smelting gold, by means of salt, by means of red chalk, by means of a blowpipe, by means of a pair of tongs, by means of a person's purposeful effort. So from here we know how the goldsmiths purify their gold. There's another sutta also which just specifically use this kind of metaphor. This Visakha is how soil gold or impure gold is purified by purposeful effort. In this way, Visakha is his soil mind or impure mind made is purified by purposeful effort. So like purifying gold. How is this done? By recollecting on the qualities of the Devas. Whether they are the 4 great kings, the 33 Yama, the contented gods, those who delight in creating, those who lord over others creating, and the Brahmas and the gods beyond that, all these Devas. You reflect in this way, faith arises, and then joy, then your mind is purified. Okay, so it is in this connection the Buddha teaches us the observance of the Devas, Deva Uposatha, in reference to these gods, to the Devas. Right? So now all the first 5 of the Noble Disciples practice is complete. So remember, so you can do any of this. You can, on the full moon, new moon day, on the Uposatha day, you can reflect on the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, reflect on your own moral virtue, like what you've done today. And of course, you can also reflect on charity, by the way. You know, it's mentioned as section 8.2, number 6. Okay, or you can recollect on the Devas, if you like. Right, so you have all, you can choose any of this for your practice on the Uposatha day. If you have the time, you're inclined to, you want to keep the 8 precepts. That's is in the conclusion of the sutta. We look at that in the next lesson. So now we have 20 minutes for you to ask questions.
Thank you, Brother Piya. I'll pass the Q&A session to Sister Isim now.
Okay.
Thank you, Brother Piya. Thank you, Sister Wendy. Brother Piya, there is no question in the chat box at the moment.
Okay.
Any brother and sister would like to ask verbal question, you can raise your hand or unmute yourself to ask your question now. Thank you.
Sadhu Bhante.
Yes, sir.
When we refer to charity by the Devas, generally we'll think of their charity as blessings.
Oh, this one is in the past. It is because of what they did before.
I see.
Then they are reborn as Devas. It's not right now that they are charitable. We do not know, because now they are enjoying, they're very happy, you know. So basically, what brought them to those happy states?
So before they became a Deva.
Yeah, correct. What made them Devas? What brought them those happy states? We have those qualities too. So we are looking at that possible future that will come to us also. We're connecting in that way. Just like the Devas. Yeah, we too are going in that happy direction. Okay. Yeah, you can also ask questions which have been troubling you for some time. This is your chance. At one point, I thought I could complete the whole thing, including the 8 precepts, but I'm not sure now. We will be rushing. Eh? It's good to spend some detailed time collecting all the 8 precepts so that you know what to do when you want to practice them yourself. Anyone have any other questions?
There's no question in the chat box yet, Brother Piya.
Okay, yeah, we just spend a quiet moment, seeing how happy you all are. It's good to be peacefully quiet even here. Yeah. If any questions come to you, just ask them.
Brother David, you can ask a question now. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Brother Pia, I've got something like I need to ask, but it's nothing to
Mm.
do with what we learned today.
No, it's okay. Yeah.
Is all right? Okay.
Dharma question. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been wondering, because we were talking about the Devas, and our lifespan here is such that we are about 2,500 years after the Buddha's departure, and the time dimension in the Deva realm is longer compared to ours.
Very true. Yes.
Correct?
Correct.
So does that also mean that although we are 2,500 years after Buddha's departure, in the realms that is above us, it could be that the Buddha just passed away for them.
Yeah,
those
very
people.
true. Yeah.
And that the Dharma is still not contaminated there as here. Does it mean that? Or
That last possible, I would say, is a very interesting way of looking at it. It's possible. But there's one problem here, because most of the Devas, they tend to be happy, enjoying themselves, and then they forget to reflect on the Dhamma, right? But on the other hand, there are Devas, especially those Brahmas of the pure abodes. They remember, they met the Buddha, and so they remember the teachings. And sometimes they will come down and talk to the Buddha when the Buddha arises again.
Yeah.
Now, in fact, what you mentioned, will be looking into at details in the next part, where the sutta actually tells you each level what lifespan is like. For example, if you look at section 18, it says Vishaka, the Devas of the four great kings, 50 human years is but a single night and day, and 30 such days make a month, 12 such months make a year. 500 such celestial years are the lifespan of the Devas of the four great kings. And then the Buddha goes on with the lifespan of the other Devas. So this is one of the rare suttas where the Buddha go on to explain in numbers on the lifespan of the Devas in the different realms. Yeah, so they are definitely longer than ours.
Yeah.
And it also shows that the Buddha and the people of Buddha's time, they were aware of this relativity of time, which is very interesting. You know? Yeah, we'll come to that in the next lesson.
Okay.
That's one reason why I want to teach this separately, so that we don't have to rush and we can go into these interesting details about relativity of time.
Thank you.
But the good thing now is, as you all know, COVID is slowly weakening, not ended yet, but still you got to be mindful, to be, follow health rules, keep to the precepts of good health and cleanliness, hygiene, right? It's very good to feel we are more free now, coming back to normal again. But then again, what does normal mean, You find that while COVID is on, we're always reminded to be mindful. That's what the Buddha's teaching is telling us. It's like as if this COVID is going on all the time. You've got to be really mindful. Otherwise, you might get infected, you get sick, So although COVID is slowly ending, and you get all kinds of other sickness coming in too. So we have to be mindful what you eat, mindful what we do or don't do. And taking care of your health is very important. So important that the Buddha says, of all the profits you can make, labha, any kind of profits, great wealth and so on, the highest profit is your health. We have heard of the saying, health is wealth. The Buddha says just that. The greatest profit you can make is to have really good health. Then you can enjoy life really more than what your physical wealth or worldly wealth can give you, because you have this body and mind, this health to enjoy, right? So that's why it's very important as we age to exercise, stay healthy, eat properly, eat well, and basically stay healthy. You have a healthy body, then you have a healthy mind, you can study the suttas, and in that way, become more happy. Okay, any questions?
Yes, Brother Piya. Question from Mayang Upal.
Okay, sure.
In some suttas, Buddha addresses certain monks with harsh praises, like worthless man.
Oh,
Does he do this in an affectionate way, like we sometimes talk to our siblings and friends, or does he actually intend to hurt those monks in a way so as to get to mend their ways?
Yes. Of course, if we understand the Buddha and his teachings, the Buddha is incapable of anger or hate, no negative emotions. So imagine, imagine, that is why you have to read the sutta as literature. You have this man who's happy and pure-minded, who is caring, compassionate. So he's not that softy kind of pretentious guru who say, oh, everything is all right, you know. It's not like that either. So if someone is wrong, so imagine this calm, peaceful Buddha telling this person who's really nasty and who's done wrong, he says, you foolish person, right? It's just like you have this close friend you really love, you're very close to this friend, you tell your friend, you're really silly doing this, don't do this, you know. So when you say you're really silly, don't do this, you're not angry, you're not filled with hate, you're filled with concern actually. You're filled with care. You feel with the desire that this person will see the wrong way and then turn to the right way. You say, so you're very silly in doing this, you know, right? So a mother scolds a child also, but the Buddha Gosha says the mother will scold a child different ways. The mother will even say to a naughty child, may the demons catch you and so on, but she doesn't mean it. Okay, of course the Buddha wouldn't go that far saying those things. So here the Buddha says, you empty person, right? Empty in the sense that you have given up this chance to learn, and there is this hollowness in you. You should get out of that. So basically he's reflecting this true nature of this negative person, and he's not celebrating it. He's saying it's not something good, and I'm trying to tell you, so I'm serious about this. It's not good. You got to get out of it. So it is the emphasis of wanting this person to be truly good and not face the bad karma that will come to this person. So it is one of care, concern, and compassion. So I don't think the Buddha definitely will not use anger or hate. Okay?
Okay, thank you, Brother Piya. The next question from Sister Patricia.
All right.
When you are always in a happy Deva state, is there not a chance you forget that there is something better than Deva state?
Oh yeah, of course. That is one of the problems of the Deva state. And those who have not attained stream winning, they enjoy themselves in this self-forgetting. It's like this nice holiday, forget about everything else. And you notice if you go for a nice long holiday, and then you have to come back to work, wow, it's quite a shocking feeling, right? So the Devas, when their karma ends and they're going to fall, they know they're going to fall from their Deva state, and they feel terrible, they feel very bad. So the rebirth is, as a rule, a negative one, a bad rebirth. They fall even to the subhuman states. So only if you have attained stream winning and higher, and you're reborn as a Deva, that means stream winning, once returning or non-returning, you're reborn in a Deva state, then you, after the karma in the Deva state is exhausted, then you are reborn in the human state. At worst, you will not go below into the subhuman planes. So that's one good effect on attaining the path, and then you are reborn in the heavens. Others, they go there for a short holiday, then they got to pay back, because you have to have enough savings, to go for holiday, right? Then the savings are gone, so they are reborn in the suffering states as a result. If they are not,
Thank you.
yeah. Okay.
No.
Sure. All right. Okay, we have about 10 more minutes.
Thank you, Brother Piya. And there's no question in the chat box at the moment. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah, anyone can also put up their hand and ask if you want. Anything in the sutta you don't understand, it's time to ask. We can look at the summary of the sutta. So, now you look at page 200, right? So you can see the summary there, right? Page 200. So 3.2.0.1, you have the two observances, Cowherd's observance and the naked ascetics observance. And then 3.2.0.2, you have the 5, 2, 4, 6, six observances of the noble ones. Yeah? So we have completed 5 of them: the perfect observance, Dharma of Servants, Sangha of Servants, moral virtue observance, the gods observance. And then next lesson, we'll look at the 8 limb observance, Uposatha, the 8 precepts. Okay, that's the one some of us may like to do, right? So that is the last part of the sutta. And this section also talks about the relativity of time in the various heavens also. So it's very interesting in that sense. The Buddha and the ancient Buddhists were aware that there is this difference in time in the different realms of the heavens. And then also, who are these heavenly beings, you might say, right? So if you watch Star Trek and so on, you will have some idea probably what kind of beings they are. So that will be our next study. No? No more questions?
Yes, Brother Piya, there's a question from Brother J.H. Kaur.
Okay, go on.
At number 6 in the sutta, right? On own moral virtue, unbroken, untorn.
Yes.
Aren't these meant that the person is also of highly attained? If so, would this be a redundant since one has already?
No, it doesn't mean that. Of course, the person who has highly attained would, keep all the precepts pure like this. Here, the Buddha is addressing us, reminding us to keep the precepts pure. Okay. Now, this is 7.3, right? So unbroken, untorn. This one refers to like cloth. So you should keep your precepts like good cloth. This good cloth is the cloth is not broken. In other words, there are no holes in it, and then it's not torn. The corners are very nice. So the precepts are not broken in even small ways. We don't think of excuses to break the precepts. Unmixed, spotless. This is using the metaphor of the cow. Okay, the cow is beautiful color, pure white. The colors are not mixed. It's not spotted here and there, but this cow is pure white, very beautiful. So here the precepts are so beautifully kept. There is no, what do you call it? Using rationalizing, saying, oh, we twist the precepts here and there, and we are not really observing it. We're just kind of trying to cheat ourselves, cheat others. So we try to keep the precepts as it is, to the best of our efforts. And when we do break the precepts, we also reflect on that. And this is a very important aspect many of us forget, that we do break the precepts. And very often we are not happy when we do that. We feel very troubled, we say, oh, and we regret, right? So instead of doing that, having all those negative emotions, when you have broken the precept at the right time, when you're calm, peaceful, especially after meditation, then you reflect, say, how did that happen? Yeah? You look at the conditions, maybe you have a negative state of mind, and then you notice that at that time, you're not happy. Usually when we break the precepts, we're not happy, right? So that is why the idea of joy is very important. When you're happy, you have loving kindness, you are empowered to keep the precepts. You're empowered, you feel happy and joyful that you want to save the life of even a small little ant. You're so happy, you want to do that. Right? You don't even have to think about it. Should I, what should I do with this ant? You're so happy, you say, oh, I'm going to save this little ant, all right? Something like that. So this is the joy that arises in you, and you're empowered to keep the precepts. That's why joy is so important. We often forget this aspect, right? We talk about merits, but we must not forget it's the joy that empowers you to let the merit take its effect. Okay.
Is this joy the pity?
That's one kind of joy, yes. That is the joy of being able to sustain your mind, to do something you're joyful about, you keep doing it, joyful attention. Right? Then there is simple joy like pamuda, you're just happy. For example, most of the time you probably sitting here listening, you have this sense of contentment, you're quite happy sitting here to listen. Then you hear something and it really clicks in you and you feel extra happy. So that is piti. Okay. And then there is still this higher sense when you do meditation, you're so peaceful, and then you sit quietly and you continue meditation. That is sukha, right? So there are different focuses, refinement of the joy. And then the highest one, interestingly, is the joy of equanimity. You may be wondering, how come equanimity can be joyful? But that's because there is no more comparing of this and that. The mind is so peaceful, it doesn't need anything to feel joyful. So in that sense, you feel complete. It's like you have finished all your work and you just feel calm and relaxed. That happiness is this kind of equanimity of you. You don't need to feel anything to be joyful because you've totally completed your job. Nothing more to be done. That's how I feel when I've written, completed a sutta. And that's how I'm going to feel when I finish teaching you all today. And you all say sadhu, and I say sadhu. I'm so happy. I said, now I can go back to my work. See? So that kind of feeling. So different levels of joy. Important thing is you feel happy and you are able to practice better. That's the purpose of joy. Joy has a purpose in that sense. It's a couple more minutes to go.
Thank you, Brother Piya. The next question from Brother Go Hyang Kui.
Yes, yeah.
Brother Piya, is it fatalistic for Buddhists to observe full moon day and new moon day as holy days, which are appropriate for Uposatha observance, while other days are not? It becomes like the Negrantes Observance. Thank you.
Of course, if you just keep it ritualistically, yes. It's very difficult to tell everybody this is the right way, because there's so many other teachers making them do all these ritualistic things. So the best we can do is by our examples, by showing, and then people say, oh, we want to do this, right? Well, this is the thing about religion, and if you are observant, you know a lot, you're going to have a lot of suffering also. This is a suffering of knowledge, suffering of wisdom. That's why we need compassion also. That's why we need equanimity also, right? Because you see a lot of people out there, they're not really following the Buddha's teaching. I've been practicing, trying to learn Buddhism for 50 years now. And there is so much about Buddhism now I see, which, I feel it's not Buddhism. So do I give up? Do I say, oh, all these people are not practicing? We try to understand. We say, well, they all have their level of understanding, and they all have their teachers, and they are teachers of level of understanding. And so in many ways, we are fortunate to know this teaching. So compassion, even pity, anukampa should arise for those people. Dharma has not really touched them. So we say, look, this Dharma is so wonderful, so joyful. So my task now is to preserve this Dharma, to spread this Dharma, so that somehow they will reach it sooner or later, if not in this life, in future lives. So Dharma work is not just for here and now, it's also for the future generations, in other words. So once we think that way, we won't give up, we will not look down on them, we feel concerned for them, in other words. So in other words, it makes our work meaningful, purposeful, so that we continue doing all these wonderful things. The sutta, that's what sustained me, for working for 20 years. This year, 2022, is our 20th year. We've been doing full-time work almost every day, bringing out all these suttas so that you can learn them. It's because we see it in this way. Our job is not complete. In fact, I sometimes reflect in this way. I say, oh, if my job is all complete, what do I do? I'll feel bored to death, perhaps, right? So working with the suttas make our life meaningful also. Okay, any last minute urgent questions? Otherwise, we can end here.
Take photo.
Sorry?
Take photo.
Oh, yes, please. Now, Ratna wants to take your happy faces. Okay, right. I love this part where you can show yourself so we know you're there. Right, yeah.
Yeah, please turn on your camera.
Yeah, camera, please. And then lights also, so we can see your face clearly. Huh? Okay. Yeah, some of you bring your camera down a bit so that you can see your head a bit more clearly. Okay, that's wonderful. Okay, Ratna, just tell us when you're ready. Oh, Ryan's camera still not working, huh? Yeah, sometimes it's okay, just try your best. Oh, okay, you can see my little grandson there, huh? Albert, okay.
Oh, okay.
Hello, Albert, smile, okay.
Albert.
Yeah, Albert. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Come, everyone. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay. Thank you very much.
All right. Okay, so now we end this study by reflecting on these wonderful moments of peace and joy, of merit making that we have been doing. We have started off by reciting the 3 refuges, the 5 precepts. And we have been keeping the precepts throughout this Dharma study, Sutta study. We have been meditating, right? And then listening to the Dharma to cultivate wisdom. By the power of all these good deeds we have done, may we be well and happy. May our minds be clear and we are calm so that we grow deeper in understanding the true nature of life through the Buddha's teaching. And it's a time also to show our loving kindness, send our loving kindness out to our loved ones, family members and friends, wherever they may be. So send out your loving kindness to them. And now we close by showing our respect and gratitude to the 3 jewels, the Buddha, our teacher, his teaching, and the great saints of the past. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava, Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi. Bow down. Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo, Dhammang Namasami. Bow down. Supatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho, Sanghang Namami. Bow down. Sadhu, sadhu,
Sadhu, sadhu.
Okay. All right, very good. So have a good weekend. Stay safe as always.